the beginning of the pandemic, many retailers have ramped up their e-commerce capabilities in an effort to derive customer engagement and ensure business continuity. Retailers will ramp up AI adoption to drive deeper personalization. To get deep into this, we have invited a panel of experts to discuss the topic New Technology Adoption in Retail. I would like to invite Varun Jain, Special Correspondent, etretail.com, to moderate this panel discussion. Over to you, Varun.
Hello everyone, once again. I'm Varun Jain and I welcome you all to another panel discussion of second edition of ET Retail's Retail Tech Summit. The topic of this discussion is new technology adoption in retail, where we are going to talk to leading retailers and technology providers about the technologies they have introduced in their operations over the course of last 1 year and what has been the outcome of the same. We are joined by a group of top speakers from retail and technology field, and I'm sure the audience will get to learn a lot from their views. Please join me in welcoming Vidya Laxman, Technology Director at Tesco Bengaluru, Vishal Kapil, Chief Technology Officer at leading fashion retailer, Elisha Harrington, Senior Director, Chief Innovation Office at ServiceNow, Vimal Venkatram, Country Manager India at Snowflake, Yash Dayal, Chief Technology Officer at Zivame, and Rajat Wahi, Partner at Deloitte India. Thank you very much everyone for joining us today. Let me start this conversation by asking a very pertinent question to the panelists. We'll start with Vidya. Vidya, can you help us understand as in what are the new technologies retailers have adopted over the course of last year? You know, as we compare it with a couple of years back, has pandemic forced us to introduce new technologies in our systems? What are your views on that?
Maybe I can share what we have done at Tesco itself. So Tesco was very focused on enterprise systems before, and a few years ago we adopted the journey of service-oriented architecture. We moved to cloud. Data, as you know, is very important. Tesco were the pioneers when they started collecting royalty data in UK. So data has been in the heart of everything, and customer is very important to us. I feel that in the last 1 year, because of the pandemic, some of the focus areas that we had was leveraging technology more. Initially, it was just an enabler. Now it has become a differentiator. We are learning, we are maturing more with how do we use microservices, are there, service-oriented architecture, cloud. Cloud has played a very, very integral part. Also, as we have a lot of stores, the in-store, how do we cope with all the changes, the disruption that happened? So we came up with this urban fulfillment centers. Most of the stores were used as fulfillment centers. Obviously, autonomous machine robotics, that's another area where we're giving more importance. We have been using it. It's not just as simple bots, but we are trying to use it in a multifunctional way. Just to name a few of them, I'm sure we're going to have more conversation on this. And voice commerce has definitely also, we're using more and more of it here.
Right. And coming to Vishal, what were the systems that you introduced in your business, and how do you look at the overall scenario?
So I'll tell you, Varun, last more than a year now has been very, very hectic year for most of the people in technology, and whomsoever technology people in any company interface with, whether it's supply chain, customer care, various business people. Why there was a thing we all know, but I want to highlight one very important thing that I have witnessed across all retailers is that the shift in the operating model. Okay, when I call shift in the operating model, it was, as Vidya mentioned, from traditional to it's very upfront. What do we do? How do we seize the opportunity? So the whole thought process changed in terms of revenue first, efficiency later. Okay, many retailers who are like sitting on the fence in terms of whether we should do e-commerce, not do, whether we should invest in digital, how much we should invest. and there were a lot of questions. And then when the pandemic hit, and then later on, it became very clear to everyone, it was no brainer that this is the paradigm shift and everyone need to jump into it, seize the opportunity. I have seen many retailers shift, starting with building their capabilities internally or externally. So a lot of people outsourced many of their front end e-commerce related stuff to many aggregators or people who were providing this as a service, because there was no time to implement auto management system, front end, so on and so forth, which goes along with the whole architecture. There was no time. So it was like, okay, pay extra more and get this done, and understand, learn, and everyone jumped into it. So a lot of retailers were into it, and a lot of retailers who were like any which way in that journey of doing something in the digital, that something turned into let's do more in digital. Okay, so the acceleration actually increased. So what I have noticed is that in-house capability, what I'm trying to say, in-house capability, external capabilities, and the process and the evaluation capabilities have it's a paradigm change. That's number one. Number two that has happened is that whole concept around that we want to do everything and best in the world, that concept has gone out of the window. It was more about what is our minimum viable product. Let's focus on that. Let's talk to the customer. So Vidya touched a point that there is a lot of work that has happened in data, and a lot of work that has happened in the in-store technology. We have even as a customers, we have received so many messages that now you can contact our store staff and do assisted shopping. So many brands, they found many innovative ways to do the assisted shopping and reaching out to the customer, whether it's a WhatsApp video call or taking them through the doing a walkthrough of the store and making them feel that this is what the new range looks like, because not many people were comfortable going out, and even now people are not comfortable going out. So there is a lot of work that has happened, and which was associated, luckily for us in India, we have this micro delivery partners, whether it's Dunzo or whosoever. There are multiple people now. So store staff, they were very comfortable, they knew very clearly that whom do we hand it over to as a third party, and the end-to-end experience was stitched in a very fast manner. That has happened in, and uh, what is most important out of this, more than technology, is that the whole company actually, many companies, they realized that it's not very difficult, number one. Number two, they realized that you don't need to do everything right. Maybe you need to focus on few things that you need to land right, so that the customer experience remain intact. Okay, so and that is basically is a very interesting time actually ahead of us, that many companies who are in that journey now, they are on that path of deciding whether external, internal capabilities, or what do they need to do, because they are in this journey for many months now. So what is working, what is not working. So hence the it has set the path for the new investments that are going to happen on whether it's ERP side, supply chain side, or store side. So basically everyone is trying to stitch this whole experience in an omni-channel. We have been talking omni-channel for a very long time. I know for many brands, including where I work, we did buy online, ship from store from day one of the pandemic, and many retailers are doing that. I think that pace is becoming more much more now, and it's going to be an interesting space to watch out.
Sure. And yes, you agree with what Vishal said about the acceleration part, about trying new things, and getting out from that revenue first approach. What are your views on this, and how has Zivame worked over the last year?
Sure. So I think what I'd start with in saying this new normal, or the world that we're living in, it's actually changed status quo for many industries, right? And it has definitely brought a big impact in the retail industry. I agree a lot with what Vishal said, right? So I think there's an increasing shift in people moving from traditional brick and mortar to online shopping, and in fact we're actually seeing a lot of traditional shoppers who were always going to brick and mortar. They've been either they're trying out e-commerce or digital platform for the first time, or and to a large extent they don't have any other option as well. So it's actually accelerated the drive and adoption towards shopping online. Um, and I think the other thing which I will echo is I think the key technology word is omni-channel. And I feel that retail is in a very interesting place where we actually seeing a convergence of technology from both sides. On one hand, we have these traditional e-commerce companies which are actually trying to embrace physical stores. They're building experience centers. On the other hand, we have some of the traditional brick and mortar companies which are actually trying out how to actually start selling their products on the digital medium. So it's an interesting confluence, and I feel that last year there was a lot more push towards where brick and mortar companies were forced to adopt to a lot of the digital sales, etc. Thankfully, in Zivame, I think we've been omni-channel for quite some time. So while we did see a shift from the physical stores to our digital medium, but there was not such a big disruption which happened because I think we are fairly advanced in terms of omni-channel. We've been doing omni-channel for a few years. So even things like we have universal pricing across our digital as well as stores. Then we have also like so if a customer goes to the store, they can actually place an order online. In fact, around 15% of our physical store orders are also shipped out from our warehouse. But we did see a shift happening towards that. And I think one of the things which we actually did work on, which is in contrast to what Vishal said, is that given that we already had a strong online presence, we actually focused on seeing if we can do some cost engineering on the server side. Because I think if you look at April of last year, I think the sentiment was not towards shopping so much, and was more focused towards buying essentials. So we actually scaled down our server infrastructure to save costs, and then gradually we started scaling up and adding more hardware, etc.
Right. Rajat, I want to understand from you. You track this industry very closely. Wanted to understand from you, as in, what is your assessment of the situation? As in, has retailers done enough in terms of technology over the last year? When it comes to this pandemic situation, do you think they have ramped up their capabilities?
So, firstly, thanks for having me on this, and thanks for the question. I think it's a mixed bag, right? My sense is some of it has been forced on them. So many have adapted very well. As Indians, we are very good at adapting. I think it was a need of the hour. We adapted it. But whether we have spent a lot of time, so I look at it, a lot of the stuff that Vidya, Vishal, Yash have said, clearly, there's a lot of stuff focus around, creating, your sort of assisted shopping, looking at various ways of reaching out to clients, making the shopper experience more sort of wholesome for them. And also, and if I look at things like social commerce, big push, subscription models have emerged, or companies offering subscription models there. We also look at a lot more focus around creating visual impacts in the store, digital impact in the store. But I still think that, my sense is that we are in the journey. And like I read somewhere that 2030 came in 2020 for many clients. And they just, whatever they were planning to do for the next 10 years, they speeded it up into now. But how much of this, I still think, is that there are still big gaps in terms of how much money we spend on understanding shoppers, single view of shopper, who shops online, who shops offline, more for offline players than online players, because online players, I think, start their journey from understanding shoppers to some extent. They have tons of data and they bring it online. If I look at Nike's, Lenskart of the world, but offline shoppers going online always find it a bit, that shopper data, because we are so used to, I think, not tracking shoppers that walk into stores. And if I go into a physical store, if I walk for even an hour and I come out, and if I've shopped nothing, the retailer doesn't know anything about me, right? But if I do that on online, I leave a lot of like footprints, and they can track that and they can build that in. So I think there's still, my sense is, a lot got done, fantastically done, because everybody, everybody moved to online. Everybody started their online businesses, which was just sort of an afterthought. A platform and list kar diya. A lot of them have started their own websites to drive a lot of direct connect, even though that may only end up being a small part of the business. But at least you get a direct consumer interaction. You can create some special events for them. You can do a direct marketing to them. Then the D2C model emerged very heavily. We are in conversation with a lot of clients around direct to direct to consumer model, what we call blended commerce, where you supply through your distributors, but you also supply directly to clients. So D2C model is becoming an important play. But I still think that there's still a lot of gap in terms of how much mining of consumer data we do, what sort of specific programs are we offering them? Are we sort of really made an effort to reach out to consumers during this time? Or we just felt like we've created a website and therefore by default they should come there? What is the reach outs we have seen over this period? And I can literally count the companies in my one hand who have really made an exceptional effort to reach out and create that experience and say, hey, we have missed you for a whole year. You haven't been back. What can we do to bring the experience to your home? What can we do? So I think that connectivity is still missing. But I think it's been a huge change. I feel it's been a fantastic, in fact, while the pandemic has been terrible, but it's given a lot of companies a chance to upgrade their technology skills and say, okay, like what Vishal was saying as well, what is the internal capability we need? What is the external capability we need from partners? And alliances became a big player here as well. Partnering with various alliances across technology and last mile delivery as well. So I think we saw a lot of change, and I think everything got compressed into a year, which we would have probably seen 3-4 years down the line getting done. So I think it's been a fantastic journey, but still, my sense is still a long way to go.
Sure. I'll come to Vimal. Vimal, you're on the technology side of things. What do you think are going to be the technologies of the future that retailers can use, given the uncertain times we are living in right now?
Thanks for that, Varun, and great insights from everybody, Vidya, Rajat, Vishal, and Yash as well. From my perspective, I think Snowflake, we are a data cloud, and we heavily, tell customers to rely a lot on the data. And I think when we talk about the pandemic last year, when it started, it has dramatically accelerated digital transformation in the retail sector. And we've seen this globally, not only in America, but we've seen this in ANZ, in Singapore, India, everywhere. And I think overnight, what has happened is retailers needed to shift to use data to launch e-commerce sites, like Yash was saying, improve omni-channel experiences, forecast demand, and then definitely optimize supply chains. What we've seen is retailers with a strong data foundation, and we have a number of retail customers globally. We have the likes of Pepsi, for example, Sainsbury's, Instacart is a very, very large user of Snowflake. We've seen a lot of these customers adopt this data foundation very quickly. And companies who did not potentially adopt to this kind of a new paradigm, I think will end up struggling, or if they've not already struggled. I think from our perspective, we call the data cloud. So the data cloud enables retailers to create a single source of truth. And this is across data, across all their businesses. And there are companies, like I said, who are doing this already today, which could include point of sale, for example. It could be marketing analytics, could be loyalty programs, supply chain efficiencies, and also looking at third-party data, for example. And businesses today are able to now, a lot of our customers achieve a lot of increasing personalization, smarter merchandising decisions, for example, optimizing supply chains, like I said. So Instacart, for example, predicts the availability of each item in near real time through complex feature engineering in Snowflake. Their scoring architecture scores 40 times more items in 1/4 of the time they were doing earlier, and using 1/5 of the resources. So we've seen a lot of the customers, use Snowflake really effectively for multiple use cases: improve personalization, optimize assortment, merchandising, pricing models and promotions, demand forecast and supply chain as well. And finally, how do we now have governed and secured access to customer data?
Sure. And coming to Elisha, what is your assessment about the use of technology with retailers? Globally, how retailers have responded to the situation over the course of last year?
Yeah, look, absolutely much of the same to what all of the speakers have just mentioned, but we've seen an absolute acceleration in technology to provide customers safe and seamless access to actually ordering their daily essentials, and, really contactless doorstep delivery, curbside pickups, all the software that's foundational to be supporting those everyday needs is what we've seen a huge uptake in. No surprise there. But we've also seen, software to provide more seamless management and delivery of these types of changing delivery models, extending into the supply chain a little bit more. So if I double click into that, looking at more sort of fulfillment center capacity, warehouse optimization, looking at distribution centers and how they can optimize for capacity. So really tracking that visibility across the logistics and supply chain is what I've seen an uptake in as well, more globally. And this is all just really fulfilling this increased demand for, traceability and efficient supply chains across the board, and also looking at the ability to detect and predict sort of maintenance in stores. We're seeing an uplift in understanding, whether it's iPads, POS terminals, refrigeration, looking at how holistically from store operations through to the IT department, how we can look at break fix, predictive maintenance, and start to really drive that sort of cost efficiency as well across asset management and IT operations management too. So we're seeing across the board, whether it's in-house and more headquarter or IT efficiency, but also through the store, and more importantly, having them both be able to talk together and optimize various activities in that sense.
Sure. So thank you everyone for great insight, to set the tone of the discussion. Now, I'd like to get back to Vishal. Vishal, I want to understand what are the key factors that decides what technologies to use? What are the key factors behind it, given the retail market scenario in India? What are your suggestions on that?
It's a very good question, Varun. I would say that the key factor should be, first of all, is like we need to be, as an individual, need to be, we all say that self-awareness is a great thing. And during pandemic, we got to spend a lot of time with our families and with self. I think the same applies to an organization as well. So first is an awareness of an organization. Okay, what all they can do and deliver, because everyone cannot become Myntra, everyone cannot become XYZ. Okay, there is a difference between tech companies trying to be to be a retailer and retailers trying to do something in technology. There's a big difference in the mindset, capabilities, processes. How do you attract talent, so on and so forth. Okay. So to your question, that what is your key parameter to select a technology, goes by what is the business case? What are the key business um, outcomes that as a company you are looking at? That need to be very, very clear. If you're not clear, then the starting point is wrong. So if somebody is saying that I will do more business through the partner model, okay, and we all know that in India, partner model is from outright purchase, it is moving to pure play marketplace or just in time kind of a way of working. If that's which is going to drive a lot of your revenues, and you think your internal capabilities are not much there, you don't have people who are like been there, done that. You don't have many things. So that self-awareness is there. And then you say, okay, fine, if I don't have these kind of things, but it will take me like 6 months to build all of this, what do I do? Okay. And how do I capture? And because as Rajat mentioned, and Vimal is also talking about, that understanding customer and data, you need all these many things to fit into, leapfrog from where you are to whatever is the end goal you are deciding for yourself. So the end goal, you can decide, you can paint the picture, but what is your starting point and how do you reach that end goal need to be very, very clear. Okay. And that, if you do not have a clarity, that means you are going to make wrong choices. Okay. So if you do not have I'm not saying that you need to, everyone need to build a CDP, which is customer data platform, single view of customer and all that. And everyone need to build a large data lake, single view of data and all that. But I'm saying that you need to decide what are the key problems you are trying to solve in data as a topic. Okay. What are the key problems you are trying to solve in service management? Okay. Because customer is saying that I want my refund to be given to me in a very fast manner. If you can just give me refund at the moment when you're picking up stuff, why you have to take it back to the origin and then do the quality check over there and then send me an email saying that I'll take another 7 days to refund you back your money. So you have to decide what are the core problems you are trying to solve. That's the first thing. And then you say, okay, fine, these are the technologies what I have currently, this is the capability, and then you take a bet that okay, this is what move the big rocks. Don't focus on edge case scenarios, because there will be always edge case scenarios. So that's what I would call two more points, though there is a bell on time, but two very important things are, many retailers are thinking that how do I build scale and what is needed to build scale. Okay. And when people are trying to find that, unpack this thing, and then they are realizing that it's not just people equation, it's the way you need to relook at your overall architecture. Okay, whether you have to create an architecture like, let's suppose in data, a data mesh kind of an architecture, or whether you don't have to really over engineer and all that, you keep it very simple. Those are the things. What is scale and what do you mean by scale? So that also has a definition. So that's how people are thinking, because I spent personally a lot of time on RFID and how do I make the efficiency in this to fulfill the ship from store. If I have like 2,000 orders allocated to a store, there should not be a situation that I have to switch off that store.
Right.
Right. So how do you build that scale, and then the answers are there.
Sure. So Vidya, for you, if we ask you, what would be the key decisive factors, to implement a new technology in your systems? What are you going to look for?
So Varun, there are three aspects of it. First is customers. How can I give a great experience to the customers? Second is within the, what kind of colleagues do I have, the capabilities within the teams. Third is what is the value that I can give depending upon the technologies that I already have. Tesco, as you know, is a 100+ old company, which means that we do not have greenfield, as I think Yash was mentioning in Zivame. They started off within e-commerce. We are a brick and mortar, 3,000+ stores just in UK, and then we have stores in CE. E-commerce, we were the first one to start. We're at a much different maturity level. When Rajat was talking about many of the things that is happening in India, that is not our worry currently. But just to give you a push, as soon as the pandemic hit us, what really happened is we didn't have time to even think. We just knew that we had these vulnerable people who are going online. Within 3 weeks, our online business increased from 9% to 14%, which means that any time that we are already building any kind of systems, when we are looking at technology, what technology to invest on, we're looking at scale, we're looking at performance, we're looking at security, and the last bit is how do we use that relevant information for greater insights? Because if we do not have all this together, it doesn't matter what technology you use, because you won't be able to leverage it, you won't be able to give value. Now, give you a classic example, that is the spiel. The example is within stores. Currently, we are going through a store transformation. I think Elisha touched upon the optimization bit and how do we leverage. We have data coming out from everywhere. You look, if you want to look at the shelf edge labels, you have computer vision, you have camera. We are already doing we have a store where you can just go frictionless, no contact. It's just like Amazon Go. We have a store like that, and that's the critical importance, which means the technology that we need is IoT of things. We need to have scale such that we can use the data. We have computer vision. We want to integrate with voice. We want to see to it that facial recognition, etc., works really well. And how do we use it to give a seamless experience to the customer? It really doesn't matter how many technologies I'm using it. But the key thing is when a customer walks into the store, the customer really doesn't care, and we are able to give them personalized price and promotions or anything that they need, the availability of products on the shelf. Those are the key things that I look at it when we have to invest on technology. I feel technology is a very important aspect of things, but it also means that they needs to fulfill the characteristics that I mentioned.
Sure. Yash, you would like to pitch in to this discussion. What are important factors for you when it comes to decide a new technology implementation at your business?
Sure. I think largely agree with the points which Vidya Vidya had shared, and also with Vishal has shared. Overall, I think at least in Zivame, when we are trying to, there are basically two approaches that we look at for tech projects. We're looking at I just want to give a different perspective here. So we look at short-term tech projects and we look at long-term tech projects, right? And I think unlike Tesco, Zivame is still in an early phase of evolution. So I think there's a lot of things which we want to do in technology and a lot more features we want to unlock in terms of omni-channel. So for example, when we look at short-term solutions, right? So these would probably be like existing problems that we want to solve, right? For example, we want to improve our demand forecasting by next percentage, or let's say now in omni-channel, do we want to allow where people can actually shop. So we already have shop anywhere, but currently we don't have that you can buy something online and go and return it in the physical store. So maybe that's a capability we want to build. So I think what I also would say is that these short-term solutions, they will have like these fixed business goals also, right? So with that, we'll be able to look at which are the ones which are the most impacting, and then actually decide on those. What is also important is that while you are actually building these and these are immediate here and now, but you also need to keep your eyes and your focus on the long-term technology bets. So I think these are more like strategic alignments, and basically what is the capability which the organization needs to have going forward, right? So for example, these would be like how much robotic capability do we want to build into the warehouse systems? If you're looking at retail stores, how can we actually make them smarter retail stores? How can we make it a more immersive experience for the customer? And as mentioned, right, these are high risk and high reward projects. So it'll do a mix of both short term as well as long term technology bets.
Coming to Rajat, again, I'll just would like to to emphasize on one thing, as in, and according to you, as per your observation, do you think the mindset of retailers have changed, say in the last 14-15 months, when it comes to the use of technology or investing in technology, rather than worrying more about return on investment? Have they started thinking otherwise? What do you think about it?
So I think, yeah, clearly, my sense is that, I mean, the pandemic has forced retailers to change their mind, get off the post sort of and say, okay, I need to do this, I need to embed, I need to build capability, I need to hire data scientists, I need to also look at what Elisha talked about, end-to-end supply chain. How should I move the product? A couple of retailers I'm talking to in the past, if they had two stores next to each other, they won't have visibility of inventory between the stores, and they would say, okay, I'll come back to you. But now each and every store manager has technology to say, I can pick up the product from that store and get it delivered to you. A lot of these innovations, which were sort of, ho jayega types, especially in a country like India, where growth is almost guaranteed. Like, what Vidya talked about, Tesco is probably best in class in terms of execution. Having lived there for many years, out of 1,400 outlets, they had 1,300 planograms across the UK, where every single store was planogrammed differently based on captive customer data, consumer data, shopper data. The merchandising was done. I think we are far from that journey, right? Because we are still not being able to, because I think there's still journey in terms of doing better shopper research to understand what should my shopper assortment be in this store versus that store, this mall versus that mall. You go with standard planograms to a great extent with some level of tweaking. So I think a lot of that has got changed here because customer is being very, very demanding. They're also being very, very service conscious. And on top of that, you have these platforms which are offering you free returns, delivery at your doorstep, anytime shopping. And retailers have had to say, okay, I'm being judged across that now. I'm no longer judged with a brick and mortar retailer, but I'm being judged on what service I provide across different platforms. So I think that's also raising the game for everybody to say, I need to upgrade my technology, upgrade my delivery. I'll be able to deliver in the next 48 hours, 24 hours, 4 hours in some cases where people need it urgently. I can take returns back without having to worry about the cash coming back. And how do I manage that part? So I think there's been a complete change, mindset change. And I think my sense is that this is going to grow. But on the flip side, India has 90% offline retail, only 10% is online and modern retail. So we have to still remember that the majority of shoppers will still shop in the mom and pops and neighborhood stores and malls. And how do we take that experience into those stores and create that wow experience using technology and what all the panelists talked about, face recognition, voice recognition, enabling through shopper ABC profiling. All of that needs to be built in. So yeah, big change, but I think it's a great progress over the last 1 year.
Right. So we have three technologies.
Varun, I just wanted to add.
Yeah, please.
So in fact, I think this just reminded me of something. So for example, in Zivame, when we are actually trying to open when we open a new store, we actually thanks to our universal view of the customer, we actually look at what have been like the online orders in that area, and actually that enables us to at least come up with the initial inventory mix of what's going to happen in that store. And of course, I think what I want to say is I think we're also I think India is also gearing up to some of the next generation things, and I think this is something which has been quite successful for Zivame.
Right. So we have three technology heads from different companies, leading retailers. Just wanted to understand a very quick view, as in you agree with what Rajat said, and is the mindset changing? Although Vishal told in the beginning that there's a shift in the mindset, but again, I'll just need a quick view from you. You think there's a change in mindset of Indian retailers, or how do you look at it? A quick view would do.
I would say one word, yes. It has changed. And you talk to any board members, not MDs, even board members, people who put money on the table, who approve big projects. So Yash talked about long-term projects and the strategic bets. I would say these days, I've seen many board members across the industry. They are very excited what they have seen. And they have also moved away with their traditional thinking, and they are also with the new mindset. So it's a very big change at that level. So if board members are convinced about the direction, and even lower margin expectations or a different margin expectations, it's a big change. And hence, we would say, I'm very optimistic that we would see many of the tech people in many retailers, boardroom as a board members. So it's just a matter of time. So
yeah, my answer is, of course, yes. If you want to stay relevant, better change. And it's very visible because our customers have changed. They have the supercomputers in their hand, which is the phone. And I think retail industry got disrupted a few years ago. And the pandemic, as somebody said, 2030 came in early. That has just accelerated the whole thing. So definitely yes.
Right. Coming to Vimal. Your understanding or your assessment, as in, can these new technologies, or do we have new technologies which can help retailers to mitigate the impact of pandemic, or maybe uncertain times that we may face in future as well? So do we have technologies like that can help retailers?
Absolutely. I think to everyone's point, there are so many different ways, you can implement technologies to help. And it's not just the pandemic. I think the evolution had already started before the pandemic. It's just got accelerated because of the pandemic across the board, that what we've seen. And I think if I can talk from a Snowflake perspective, of course, and we have a global view of so many retailers who are doing innovative things during this pandemic as well. In fact, we've seen personalization really catching on everywhere in many of the retail conversations that we have. For example, there's a top 10 retailer in the world which increased personalized offers to 100% of their existing customer base. And they also reduced costs significantly. I think Yash made a very interesting point initially that last year when the pandemic hit, he had to scale down his servers because the orders obviously went low. People started buying essentials. And here is where the impact of cloud is being seen, because cloud is inherently very elastic. As your demand grows, you can add more resources. As your demand shrinks, you can actually cut down those resources on demand. And Snowflake is purpose built for the cloud, where we built grounds up to take advantage of the public cloud. So customers can scale with us and also scale down in case the business starts shrinking. To give you some other ideas, for example, around optimizing assortment or merchandising, we have companies like Urban Outfitters who have integrated sales data across all their BUs, channels, marketing, and they've also started using third-party sources from Merkle and Braze. Because, for example, Snowflake is a data cloud. We have not only helped customers manage their data within the organization, but because we are a data cloud, we also have something called a data marketplace, where customers can now access third-party data, for example, from a variety of data providers. You can integrate that with your own data sets to have much better real-time visibility, and you can make much better decisions. Sainsbury's, for example, somebody made a great point that people are hiring data scientists today. It's a reality. So at Sainsbury's, for example, the data science team actually launched a product to price comparison application on their website, and they can monitor in near real time the impact on time from a sale and a conversion standpoint. So there are so many different technologies, Snowflake, the data cloud being one of them, where if the intent of the retailer is to transform, you can actually do wonders. And I think Rajat mentioned the return on investment is what people are looking at. But I think increasingly people will also look at the RON, or the return on negligence of not doing something. So that's an impact you really can't measure, because if you don't do something, sure, you can survive for maybe a year, but what happens after that 12 months? So return on investments, you have to make the bet with an 80-20 rule. You may not have all the answers 100% of the time, but if 80% you're convinced that this is the way to go, you should make a decision and move forward.
Sure. And coming to Elisha, wanted to understand your point of view also, as in, do we have technologies that can help retailers to, mitigate future crises, something like that?
Absolutely. Look, much the same. We've got a big global base of, huge retailers in the US, UK, across the globe and APJ region. But really what stood out to me was also, we're talking about data scientists, and that's absolutely happening at scale for more of advanced analytics, analyzing data at an enterprise level. But what I've also seen a trend in is low code, no code application development for areas like store operations, where a retailer just really quickly at rapid pace needs to spin up an application to do X, Y, Z. So they don't have to wait for a really, really large project or time. They can just very quickly, without any, coding skills at all, they're able to, through point and click, and we've got software called App Engine, for example. There's many other software companies that have very similar types of application management and software development portals, where they can just spin up various applications in areas I'm seeing of managing store projects, repairs and maintenance tasks, store transformation, whether it's like changing the layout of the store, looking at modernization, whether it's updating, lighting or certain fit outs at the store, or even promotional campaigns. So we're just seeing this need to, fail fast, innovate quickly, and just get out there and be able to implement something that you can start using today.
Right. So, Vishal, like you were very optimistic. What I figured out that, people would invest a lot in technology, is that's the only way to go ahead. You said even the mindset of board members are changing now. Now, suppose we are past this pandemic situation, we are again living in the normal world. Do you think this sustenance or this dependence on technology would be there for most of the retailers once we are living in a normal world? Will they again depend so much on the technology, or they'll go back to the earlier ways?
I don't think people will go back because right now at a leadership level, at an execution level, people have on their phones data about what's happening on the website, what is happening about various different things. How many people are doing visits, what is happening on our performance marketing, are we really burning money which is going into the wrong side of the touch points, so on and so forth. So there is so much of awareness that has happened at all levels, and I've seen many company MDs taking special advices from various different consultants or internal digital experts in last 1 year. It's mind-boggling. It is not going to change, number one. Number two, what is going to change is there are many newer aspects which will come, as Elisha mentioned, low code and all that. There is going to be a mind shift or a mindset change that we are going to witness. If you look at the amount of investment that is there on the growth, so there is a dollar that is getting spent on customer acquisition and the happy path, the forward path of journey, the conversion and so on and so forth, and converts anyone. but there is very little money that is getting invested in the return path. And if the return is 20%, 30% in industry, that, and if you reduce that 20, 25, whatever is the percentage, even by 10%, that's money actually. you know so that's a money, that's margin that pays for many things. So I see that a lot of people are trying to solve problems in many areas and many topics. So it is, we are not going to go back. In fact, it is going to be an interesting space, and we will move from another typical point where on the low code, if you do an implementation of any tech project, short term, I'm using, I quite like Yash, the way you said short term and long term. If you are doing a short term and long term project, in India, typical problem is in traditional companies, this is how we do business. Okay, we are unique. And but on the other side, the new age companies or people with the changed mindset, they are embracing low code or no code. Okay, where you can't expect all these kind of customizations and many things, that we are unique. So all this nonsensical, I am calling it a nonsensical, all this nonsensical thing that we are unique is going to go out of door, okay, over a period of time. Because we will have few set of leaders in technology and even in business uh, who would be very clear that this is the outcome we are looking at. So already HR's evaluations are changing. It is becoming OKR. Okay, so that is going to happen in the traditional companies. So I may launch do a successful project, but there is hardly any, we haven't met any results in terms of returns. Returns have come, but the inventory is not up in the system. So it takes more than 24 hours. So what's the point? So there are many such topics. It will get nailed. And the pace is increasing because many companies who are not even data assisted are becoming data assisted before becoming a data driven. So uh, so that it's a big change. So I am very positive about all of this.
Right, right. And Rajat, what do you think? You agree with what Vishal said about the dependence on technology that's going to sustain?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there is no way around that. E-commerce, online, omni is only going to become bigger part of your business. Even in markets like China, it went from 19 to 25% over the last 1 year. Every single country has seen it grow almost double. India has gone from 3 to 6%. Where we thought we would end up in 2025, e-commerce will end up being within this year. So I think there's been a clear change, and I think the shopper is also asking for it. The customer is demanding for it. At the back end, you will be required because you want agile manufacturing, agile supply, you want transparency, visibility, you won't be able to move stock. Also, you have fast fashion coming in, and the shelf life and NPD process is becoming faster. So the customer and shopper wants new products quicker. A lot of these changes is also going to drive that. So I absolutely agree. Right, from board level to the CXOs level, I mean, technology is becoming an important part. And since the smartphone is in your hand, which is really driving a lot of our behavior, it sort of seems to be omnipresent across businesses, and we see that across all our clients, across consumer and retail sectors.
Varun, I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
I think I found this metric actually before the pandemic started, which actually said that 60% of India's population will have a smartphone by 2022, right? And I think the pandemic would have just accelerated this a lot more. And I think there's one thing to have a smartphone, and the other thing is to actually start doing online shopping on that, right? And I think that is where the biggest change would have happened. So traditionally, people if you look at a user smartphone journey, they would buy a phone. Maybe the first thing they want to do is like install some group applications where they can actually message to their family, friends, and then online shopping is a little more evolved journey which people go through that, right? And I think in the last year, I think there's been a big acceleration towards that. In fact, a lot of people would have actually bought a smartphone to actually do online shopping, right? and I think the boundaries and the barriers are being broken each and every day. And I think one interesting analogy is that, like, the disruption which demonetization did to online payments, I think similarly this pandemic has done for online sales. It's a similar disruption.
Sure.
I also wanted to add. I just wanted to add one more on the question where you said how do technologies help mitigate the impact of
Right.
pandemic. So there's one interesting example which we have in Zivame, which is called Zivame Fit Code. And this is it's a great example of technology actually bringing a change in women's lives. And there've been a lot of research studies which say that about 80% of the women are not aware of their size in the categories that we sell, right? So FitCode is one of those technologies where customers can actually, in the safety of their home, they can actually go in and answer a few questions, and they get a fit code size, and based on that they can actually shop online, and they'll be comfortable that they're actually getting a product which actually fits them really well. And over the past year, we've actually seen a huge increase in the adoption of this and the number of customers using it. One of our recent numbers is that about 85% of the people who've taken fit code actually have found the right fit, and they've used this to actually shop online.
Right. Coming to Vidya, if we look at the technologies that we have used in the last 12, 14 months, how do you look at it as, and are you satisfied with the kind of work that was being done at the organization level? Or do you think you would have done something more to, address to the customer needs? What would be your assessment of the situation?
So, Varun, in our case, as I mentioned, we started this technology transformation around 5 years ago. And when I talk about this technology transformation, it's not just dependent on the technology, but we also started looking at the people, we started looking at process, we started looking at business. If you have to be successful across the board, transformation needs to have all the dots connected across the board. I wish I could say it was just because of technology that we were able to sustain. We have around 300,000 plus colleagues who work, because we have store colleagues and also technology folks. And in technology, we are across 4 locations with 10,000 plus people. The proud moment was that we were able to work from day one when lockdown happened without any disruption. Obviously, at the storefront during the first wave when the COVID hit, we had a lot of our colleagues who got affected. So we had around 50,000 plus people from the stores who couldn't come into work, but we were able to hire 50,000 people very fast. And this was feasible because of the technology which was underlying it. And we were able to scale up, just as I said. I think, the elastic, what you were just talking about from Snowflake, that elasticity which cloud gave us, that was the best moment for us, because we were able to scale and we were able to increase our slots. And in UK, they changed policies every other day. They were changing policies during the lockdown. And we were able to adapt to it so fast, and with colleagues sitting here remotely able to work. So I think, yes, so that is where from a technology front, in 12 to 15 months, we had invested on it much before. We had just not invested in technology, on the capabilities within the people. Are we there? Not really. It's still work in progress. And we see that what we had not envisioned was the people front from mental issues perspective, domestic abuse. Those were things that we had not envisioned. It's very easy to put something on paper saying, if we do this is the milestone, we'll get there. And we had done everything feasible which you can think, but there were a lot of things that we'd not known. And those were the new things which surfaced, the widening of the digital divide, remote working. Yes, we are able to provide it. And if you were to do a survey currently with our colleagues, they will tell you 50% will say they want to come into work, 50% will say they want to work from home forever. Is that possible? How are we going to manage it? Because when lockdown happened and we started working, there was a mind shift change for us, because it took me a while to say, oh my God, I'm just going to be sitting here, standing here, working from here, not meeting anybody. Now, when we started thinking of opening, there is a mind shift change to get people back into work. And I think we'll have to go through that journey also.
Right. Coming to Elisha, can you give us a couple of best practices or best use of technology that global retailers had undertaken over the course of these 12, 14 months, So any use of technology that a big retailer, has done in a very efficient manner?
Yeah, look, I could name a couple. A lot of large retailers in the US are now looking towards just having a single system of action with a common data model, being able to have more of a single pane of glass. So as all of the new technologies have come in, it can get complex and fragmented because you've got a lot of swivel chairing or new data to input into various systems. So having a system that brings everything together and still provides a single pane of glass is sort of what we're seeing. We're still needing that glue that sticks everything and orchestrates together so that store management or category buyers, the buyership more broadly, various areas have their own sort of area where they can see, the assets map, they can see their processes, their workflows, all of the services that might be impacted if something goes wrong. So we're really seeing this shift towards making sure there is still a level of integration across for consolidation, and being able to just pull all of that data into one area is also an advantage as technology becomes, fast-paced and complex.
Right. And Vimal, you would like to come in. Can you give us share some global best practices from retailers, big retailers?
Sure. I think Elisha hit the nail on the head. The single pane of glass is exactly what Snowflake tries to provide for our customers, right? We hope to be the glue where all the data sources from various applications, whether it's robotic devices, IoT devices, everything comes into Snowflake and people can start making much better informed decisions. I touched a bit on what globally retailers have done. I can reiterate a few of them as well. So for example, like I said, a top 10 retailer globally had increased their personalization offer rate to 100% of their existing customer base and reducing their spend by almost 80%, which is an amazing number. Pizza Hut, for example, correlates weather patterns to purchase data to optimize marketing campaigns. I spoke about Sainsbury's earlier. Then Instacart, of course, is a very key customer for Snowflake. They pretty much predict the availability of each item in near real time. And that new model scores 40 times more items in 1/4 of the time, which is amazing. We also focus heavily on the security of the data around governance and securing customer data. So for example, Pizza Hut has used dynamic data masking, which is available in Snowflake, to mask data at each query, reducing costs, complexity, and maintaining the compliance with GDPR or CCPA. For example, Count is built on Snowflake and powers fraud detection at many, many joint customers of ours as well. So customers are using Snowflake in multiple different ways. And again, if I move a little bit away from large format retailers or very, very well-known names, to Rajat's point, 90% of India is still at the mom and pop stores. So we are, yesterday we announced a public reference case with Khata Book, which is now powering a lot of the ledger for all of these mom and pop stores as well, which had kept open during the pandemic, servicing their local neighborhoods. So Snowflake is now helping Khata Book as well. So Khata Book is powered by Snowflake.
Sure. So we are running out of time now. So there's time for one more question, and this will be we'll take views from all the panelists for this. So we'll start with the retailers. What would be the key learnings for all of you out of this pandemic and reference with technology? So we'll take one key learnings from each retailer. So we can start with Vidya.
Keep the architecture simple. If you were to talk from technology, I would say that. Keep it simple.
Right. Vishal?
Don't try to do many things at the same time.
Okay.
Because end of the day, it is the same set of people who has to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Number two, keep the end goal in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these are the two learnings I have.
Right. Yash?
I think my learning is to embrace technology as much as you can. So for instance, if you try to imagine what our life in pandemic would be without like the internet and the advanced communication tools that we have, right? It would have been a much different story and probably a much worse situation than what we are in currently. So I think it's important to adopt and embrace technology. And keep your eyes on long-term changes and disruptions which technology can provide into your industry.
Right. We come to Rajat.
For me, I think it's end-to-end digitization to build transparency. I mean, that really is the critical, piece that we are seeing people embrace and that we are working with a lot of clients.
Right. Vimal, for technology providers, what would be the key learnings?
I think from our perspective, the adoption of public cloud is skyrocketing, and for the right reasons as well. So that's been a huge learning for both us as well as the customers. And finally, from my perspective, from Snowflake, customers are also increasingly seeing the power of data. If they can get data into a single pane, into a single source of truth, they can actually do a lot more even during tough times.
We'll take Elisha's view.
I think that's all summed it up from everyone really well. I'd just say over the top of that, creating a unified experience. It doesn't matter whether it's an employee trying to, get trained up and on board on day one, or whether it's shared services, IT, legal, risk, suppliers externally. They all need an experience. They all need a workflow. And so it's just ensuring that they get the job done.
Sure.
And Varun, if I may add one more, I think it's
Vidya.
adapting to the services mindset. When as technologists, what happens is we get so siloed into looking at which technology to use. Instead of that, we all should be adopting the services mindset. As we all spoke, how do we give a unified experience if we all are siloed within our systems?
Right. Anyone has any other views to share? Or like Rajat just said that, and his key learnings, that digitization is the way to go. Now, just one question came up to my mind, and any of the panelists can answer it. We have been hearing, I've been talking to a lot of retailers over the course of years, and it's been the buzzword that we want to go digital. We want to digitize our processes, and it's been there for the last 3-4 years. But most of them think of opening an online channel would make them digital. So that's the whole journey of digitization. Now, we have all the CTOs and technology providers here. Do you think that now, with the pandemic setting in and things changing so rapidly, this is the time when retailers or organizations can really go end to end digital? They could really understand the meaning of what going digitization is. So anyone can, answer.
Let me start, because I'll just give a quick overview. 100,000-year-old company. I have, mishmash of systems. I wish it was so simple as going digital end to end, as Rajat rightfully said, is the right way to go. But we have supply chain, order fulfillment, transportation, online. So it's just not enough to put e-commerce there, because in the back end, if it's not fully digitized, you can't really provide the scale and the unified experience that we want to give. So that's the problem that we are facing. Of course, yes, if you were to ask, don't you want to go digitized? Yeah, of course, yes. But look at the scale. For us to transform all those systems, it's impossible. We are going through this journey. I think it's going to take us quite a long time. That's my view.
Anyone else want to come in before we wrap up the discussion? Vishal?
I just want to say one thing. The definition of digitization is changing. In last 20 years, I have seen in my career. So previously people said, okay, 20 years back, when I was part of SAP implementation, people said, oh, this is digitization. So it's been 20 years. So a lot has changed. Now we have IoT, and so the definitions of digitization will change. What I'm trying to say is from time to time, the only thing that matters is how do we simplify our aim. The end goal is clear, this is our customer proposition, and are we enhancing that customer proposition, yes or no? Because supply chain, there's a lot of robotics in supply chain. So Ocado is one such example. There's a lot that is happening. So if we are very focused on the end goal, and then we retrieve back and put together that this is something which I want to simplify, because if it was 2 decades back when I worked on SAP, it was to simplify and operationalize better. So that was the problems people were trying to solve and control and so on and so forth. So now there are multiple other problems. If we are trying to simplify the complexity, that is the new digitization in my view, and the definition will keep on changing.
Sure. Anyone else wants to comment? Yes. Yeah.
So I think I also have a slightly different view on this. So I think digitization is a very brick and mortar way of thinking about this. I think the right, in my view, the right word will be omni-channel or omni-channelization, because there are two different perspectives on which we are actually coming together, right? So for the traditional brick and mortar companies, it's a lot more about digitization, where we are trying to move all of the supply chain onto digital, onto the cloud, adopting cloud, etc. On the other hand, we have a lot of these e-commerce and digital first companies who are actually embracing physical stores. So there it is not, it's actually adopting physical more than they're already comfortable with digital, but actually adopting physical. So I'm guessing it's a omni-channel is the right future, is what I think.
Right. So, Vimal, you want to comment?
I think I concur with everyone. And what I really think from a digitization standpoint is the intent. I mean, like Vidya said and Yash said, one could be a traditional company wanting to go digital. Like Yash said, one could be a completely digital, born in the cloud, native kind of company wanting to go physical. As long as the intent to understand that you want to tap your customer at every single point, offer the best services, have the best user experience, and have the best kind of revenue and cost models at your disposal, I think the intent to do that is very, very critical.
Sure. So I'll also take Elisha's view. Yeah, Vidya.
Vimal really articulated well. It's the intent. Its end result is customer first. How we do it really doesn't matter. But make it fast, make it agile, because our customers now do not have time. And their engagement time, as we know, their YouTube, I have a 19-year-old son, is 2.5 minutes now. We can't watch movies beyond that. So yes, right. It's all about fast.
So I'll just quickly take Elisha's and Rajat's view as well. So Elisha, what do you think about it?
Oh, I absolutely concur with everyone's remarks. And I'd just say, think holistically in your approach and strategy. And also think slightly in the longer term in terms of, there's a lot of great technology out there, but you want to best place technology for a more sustainable future for retailing.
Right. And we'll conclude this session after taking Rajat's view.
No, I think Elisha summed it up well. It's not just the end consumer, but it's the suppliers, it's the employees, it's the partners. So I think the idea of digitization is, my sense, a simplification to build transparency and best-in-class CX for everybody who uses the system. So I think that's where it sort of lands up in the end.
Well, so with this, we come to an end of this very interesting and very insightful panel discussion. Thank you very much, all of you, once again, for joining in and making the discussion so lively. I also believe that the audience would have taken invaluable insights from all the views shared by the panelists. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for more panel discussions.
Thank you, everyone, for your thought-provoking discussion. Stay tuned as we have more such conversations.